Now that we got the bills paid, let's go and start the show. How about that, right?
So the audio sucked. We couldn't. We couldn't hear your voice, but the video, the sound was awesome. We just couldn't hear you talking over it.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay, well, I'll figure out how to do some ducking. How about that?
I thought that was great, super like groovy, because we're like, I think that works for like the type of show that we are. It's like, yeah,
right. It's so hard to get an intro audio, and I was like, I'll try something new. Why not? And I found that, and thought I'd give it.
Play with the audio levels next time.
It has a little bit of a WordPress after dark feel to it. The soundtrack, like maybe we could be like a little more.
Okay. What are you doing after dark?
No, this is gonna be bad. I see this.
Oh yeah.
But
keep digging.
I've been teaching workshops for 2 days straight. Like I taught 2 workshops in 2 days, 4 workshops in 2 days, and my brain is like, so it's either going to be terrible or great depending on your point of view.
Great.
Perfect. Well, since you guys didn't hear my intro anyhow, I thought that I'd say it again. So this is episode number 308 of WP Watercooler. Let's go around the room real quick, get everyone introduced. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Jonathan, and today it is snowing in North Idaho. If you're going to look out there, you can, you can't really see it, but I'm excited. We like snow.
Nice. Good to have you on. Say, you're muted still, just so you know.
That's by design, feature not a bug.
Yourself.
I was saying also that we believed you about the snow. Like,
wait, you were saying?
No. I'm always saying. I specialize in saying. Hey, speaking of me, I'm just going to do my intro. Was that my job now? Yeah. I'm Sadie Reed. I'm here. How are you guys? Speak, teach, preach, work, make, love, WordPress. Follow me on Twitter at Sadie Media if you want. I tweet sporadically. So don't. Or do. Whatever.
George, how about you?
George,
do it yourself.
Do what you want. It's cool. I got you.
No pressure.
I am George Spanis. I work at Automatic on the Jetpack team for the past 6-ish years, and I am driving up at stupid o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning, 3 o'clock, to head up to Ithaca, New York, to help mentor 6 grad students in open source contributing.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Does that open source project happen to be WordPress?
It does indeed.
Oh, wow.
And also maybe
check
Jetpack.
that out. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought it?
I know, right?
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over on Twitter at Jason Tucker. My website is jasontucker.blog. And I do this show as well as another show called WP Blab. We didn't record yesterday, but we have many archives. Feel free to go through. You can just hit the random button and just kind of go through and find something.
You know what the thing about Blab is that the Blab shows are much more like evergreen useful. So you can go in there and just check out an archive and you're like, here's some good tips. And ours are like, so last Thursday.
So the trash fire of the week.
So yeah, trash fire of the week. That's a special segment. Boop, 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 boop. We need an intro for that one too, Jason. The trash fire of the week. WP trash fire.
Just hit the button and just make some noises.
Anyway, my point is that you should listen to Water Cooler every week so you don't miss anything, since the archives are essentially useless to you.
Oh, that's the point?
That was my point.
Okay.
You say that, but then I get comments on YouTube and on Facebook and stuff of people going like, "Oh, I just found you, and I just found this particular episode from 5 years ago."
I mean, it's still relevant.
We have to remember that, guys. We have to remember that 5 years from now.
Right?
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So today we were thinking of talking a little bit about comments on your website and all the fun things about comments. And
let's call this episode The Peanut Gallery.
Yeah, the Peanut Gallery. Exactly. So over on WP Watercooler, I'll kind of start us off. How about that? So over on WP Watercooler, I've been using the Facebook comment system on there for a little while, and I've had people say like, "Oh, using Facebook comments. Why would you use Facebook comments instead of discuss or this or that or the thing that that Jetpack does or any of these things that are out there? Why aren't
Jetpack does?"
I don't know. They
Whatever that is.
Why? Because we're lazy. And it
Yes. I don't want more data in my website.
Why? Which part? Which part is why?
Why don't people just use Facebook, right? Because it's like, oh, it's easy. I'm on Facebook.
Oh, everyone's mad at Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, they are.
They
But
ripped
I
this
don't know,
up.
I just-
Sorry.
That's
You
investment.
want the comments
on my
on
website.
the water cooler to be sold to Cambridge Analytica?
No, I don't. I'm also one of the people. I've been mad at Mark Zuckerberg for way longer than you guys have been mad at Mark Zuckerberg.
So you're a Zucker
I'm a-
hipster.
I'm a social media.
You're a Zucker hipsterberg.
Hey, that's what you get when you're an elder social media millennial. An elder millennial, you get to claim. Yeah, I knew he was bad.
So
Get
how
off
many
my
of you
lawn.
actually have comments on your personal websites or your business website or any of that sort of thing?
I tell all of my clients to turn them off. Unless they are actively blogging, or there's an active, which is very few of the small business owners because they have other stuff to do. Although they should, but should.
Wait,
In
they
reality,
have other stuff to do? You mean like run a business?
yeah, the should and the reality are not the same thing. It would be great for them if they did this, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of the situation is, if they do post, do they have time to moderate and review comments? Likely no. The thing that they get, especially in the beginning when they start, is what I call flattery spam. Do we ever talk about flattery spam on here? We're like, this is the most amazing article I've ever read in my life.
Oh yeah.
You should totally talk about this topic more. Here's my link.
Here's my link.
Here's my link. Go to Russia.
But I still get those even as emails where somebody else sending an email saying like, hey, on that blog post you wrote about this thing, which, our blog posts have maybe 8 words on the blog post for a particular water cooler episode. And then they're like, you mentioned this one link. And I'm like, yeah, I mentioned that one link because we mentioned it on the show. And they're like, but could you use our link as well? And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
XYZ whatever. No, sorry, not using your link.
No.
That is like dedicated backlink marketing that they're doing there.
That's pretty hard.
It's a shotgun approach, very much. Like,
I mean, without a cultivated relationship, you're just like, pick me. I'm going to annoy you. And I've never thought that was a thing. Unless the link is broken, right? So that's always the thing. You're supposed to actually look for broken links and then go say, hey, your link is broken. Here's an article that's not broken. And you're actually helping that person. Not just, you should change your links to benefit me for no reason whatsoever.
So
Yeah.
you can combine those and be like, so your link is broken, but just so you know, my link's better, and you could use this one instead.
Right. I mean, I think that's what the backlink, that strategy is actually supposed to be. It's just that with, in the social media echo chamber, advice gets distilled down to like the one thing. And then everyone's like, oh, you just ask people to use your link. And then everyone's obnoxious for a while.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have a long and storied history with comments. I'll give you the-
Time, bring it.
You make a lot of them.
the short, like I did a decent chunk of writing early on, did a bunch of stuff on like Smashing Magazine. And at first it's like, oh, this is fantastic. So like part of it is just my own personality and this like desire to please. So when I would get a negative comment, like it would really, it's like everything, all the dozens and dozens of positive comments are just blown out of the way from this like one negative comment. And to what I got to the point
Squeaky
where,
wheel syndrome.
right. And I would just I would refuse to go back and read so to this day, it's been 5+ years. I don't go back to read like the comments anymore. And I've missed out on things, but that's led over time. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other night who traced back he'd been doing a bunch of writing, doing some great stuff, but then he got some really negative comments. And it's been 3 years since of him not producing. So my own conclusion, similar to what you've been telling your clients, say, like, I don't like anymore. And I can see there are use cases, so I'm curious to kind of talk about that, where like especially around using that as the community part. But as an author, like I'm not writing for the validation that's sometimes nice to get from comments. Like, oh, it's nice. People say some nice things in the comments. But I'm also like, with comments open, it's almost like giving your platform just up for anybody to do whatever they want with, which doesn't really make sense. So my conclusion is no comments for me.
So basically what you're saying is you want to be that guy that just like coolly walking away while the explosions are happening in the background.
Well, and here's the thing, like I want engagement. Like I want to get feedback from folks.
Right.
I don't need them to, like, I'm like, email me or catch me on Twitter. Like,
You
let's
want
talk.
to know specifically, you want your engagement to be in your specific forum that you want it in.
And it's like, I want it also to be useful, because it's as nice as it is to have someone say, hey, great article. I mean, but to what end? Like,
well, that's just ego stroking, right? And probably, that's the same thing as like yay or first, or like comments on Instagram or whatever, where everyone's just like cool or whatever. That is a kind of a cultural thing of just like sort of empty bolstering. And that's actually encouraged in a lot of business, social media ethos. They're like, yeah, just go empty, you say yay on everyone's stuff or whatever. And I think what you're talking about is that useful. That's what I'm talking about with my small business people. Is like, is this a use of your, like, who cares? Like, you're exposing yourself to the people who come to your site. You have to moderate, or you're just like letting anyone publish on your site. And so then you have to spend that time. And then what value are the people who are coming to your site to get your input? They don't care what Joe Schmo says. So it's really a very egocentric, comments are a very egocentric thing, because they're not really useful except for entertainment value to other people.
So maybe let's talk about some of the value, because on the one hand, like for me personally, in like my writing, I'm like, I don't have comments. I want people to like give me feedback on usefulness, so I encourage them, like, email me directly, like let's talk. So that's that. But there is something about like comments, and it's about the positioning of it, because it's a very useful thing to, like, in WordPress, right? Like for certain types of content, giving people the ability to engage with each other. I just feel like in my own case, I haven't had it's not valuable in terms of my writing, but if I was doing something different. So I'm curious for times where you guys have seen like comments work great.
Yeah, we stream on YouTube. Comments don't work great most of the time.
So, okay, let's say no, comments do not work great. But what I have seen work well in their stead is sites where they'll say on each post, go ahead and discuss this post in our forums with the link. And then each new post generates a comment thread elsewhere. And then you can like set different SEO stuff on the forum. So like no index, no follow. So like the discussion there will be because of the valid discussion going on there, not because folks are trying to spam links for Google.
So, but that leads to the question, if you are going to all of the trouble to be like, go discuss this in our forum, that means that you are definitely getting some sort of value out of that extended engagement, or you're a hobbyist and you want to create that discussion. Totally fine. So it looks on, whatever perspective you're looking at it from. But my question is, when we say engagement, right? Like, what is that, right? Is it people commenting and having discussions in a forum on a topic? Fully, that is totally engagement, right? But like, that's a whole thing. So are comments really even engagement? Is that back and forth? Like, it's not even a back and forth. I
think that's key right there. Like, I think about WP Tavern for a moment. There's two things that I love about it. Well, love is a strong word, but like there's some great coverage. Like just like they do some great work on, hey, this is an interesting take on a story, et cetera. And then it's the comments. And the comments, I generally have very low expectations of, and it's usually more about like entertainment and perspective than
like, ready your popcorn, Jonathan.
That's my own thing, right?
WP trash fire.
I'm gonna get the popcorn and kind of see what's going on, because I feel like I tend to observe. Now, I in general hold the community in very high regard, but like I expect I expect not good things to typically come out of what gets presented in WP Tavern. And then I get to see what often is the case is then I'll see people that I respect like engaging, and it adds to my respect for them.
Oh, it adds? I was thinking you're like,
no, because like a lot of times there's like terrible things that are said, and then you see how someone responds. I'm like, man, that's a tough situation. Kudos to you for dealing with like a tough situation. So it tends to, but it's not, there's not really.
That's some weird, like, good job fighting that lion in the gladiator pit. You're excellent. Like, there's a little bit of that element to it, right? Like, I admire how well you handled that crazy person coming at you with nonsense.
I mean, that's basically it. But I think some of that's somewhat cultural. Like the Tavern, for better or for worse, is developed, and this is just my own observation.
It
like
is Tavern.
Kind of that around it, right? So, and that's not this sort of conversation. It's like kind of yelling with polite and thoughtful responses occasionally. It's not like comments don't necessarily facilitate that multi-way like dialogue. It's not the same as like a track ticket, which is always like upstanding and anyway.
But no, that's exactly it. It isn't engagement. It's like, woo, or it's random fights, or it's whatever. Like, actually, I was just talking about this with my business partner yesterday. We were at a meal, and she's like texting, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, wasting my time trying to educate people on Facebook. And I'm like, and then I was like, "Why are you doing that?" She's like, "I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I should try. I know it's useless. I'm never changing anyone's mind." And it's like a joke. It's like, you're just arguing with yourself. No one's actually like, "Hey, that was a really interesting point that I read on there." Like that's the likelihood of that happening is very low.
You've just recapped XKCD number 386.
Yay.
Are you coming to bed? I can't. This is important. What? Someone is wrong on the internet.
You just narrated a comic, which is amazing. So that's
I think you helped me figure something out. Like when I'm writing, like most of my writing now, like growinwp.com, something I started recently. Like I'm writing with Grow in WP. I'm writing with very specific people in mind. So
who?
Like people at technology companies.
People growing in WP, duh.
So wait, is that legal in your state? I didn't know. Sorry, growing? No.
So
Context is everything, Jonathan. Everything.
The point is I don't need comments on the site because I'm sharing it with specific individuals who I've written it for. And I'm writing it publicly under the expectation that it'll be beneficial to a wider group of people. But I have specific people in mind. I write something, I share it with them. They tell me if it was useful. They give me suggestions for making it better. If I was writing to a community or was doing something more broadly, then it's like, well, then let's have comments because we're trying to create community. Like that's the purpose. In this case, I'm writing for specific. This is all about being useful to individuals. I don't need people to publicly affirm that it was useful or not. That's just a stroke.
I guess it depends on what it is that you're trying to what it is that you're trying to do with that particular content. Like for me, for instance, when I write things on Facebook's pretty much my number one spot where I'll just dump here's 1,000 words, enjoy. And I'll dump something like that on there, and then which is totally the wrong format for the social media network, and I totally understand that whole thing. But I do that because I'm putting that out there in hopes that somebody who's had the exact same situation as me and go like, you know what, you're right, and here's what happened, or you're wrong, and this is what happened, or oh my gosh, this is the same sort of thing that's happened to me recently. Let me kind of share this with you. But I think if you're not writing that content in a way that's asking people for a response or giving them a call to action for that particular content, then no one's going to want to write stuff. But I think if you are writing your stuff that way and you're not giving them a comment box, they're going to be kind of upset, and they're going to go, well, I really want to tell this person why they're wrong or why they're right or how I did something a certain way.
I love that. That seems like a key, because in that case, you're not writing with a specific individual. You're setting this open offer to hey, let's engage. And in that specific case, the people who engage, you're beginning to spark the baby seeds of what could be a community, right?
Oh yeah, I've gone to bed, woke up, and then I had 500 comments on a Facebook post.
Yeah, and then that became
having a chat back and forth with each other.
That was my nightmare. Well, I mean, it could be great, it could be terrible, but that's those people are all having the chance now to connect around this topic that you started to trigger that conversation.
I call them social media bombs. You just kind of grenade and just chuck it, and then it just kind of goes off, and then you go, okay, I'm going to bed.
And you are that guy walking away with the explosion behind you, literally, like George said.
I'm out.
Good luck, everybody. I think what you just said, though, it exactly comes down to, and what you also said, Jonathan, it comes down to what your goal is, right? All of this does. All of the choices that you're making on your WordPress site, but also in theory, in your presence on social media should be, for a reason. There should be some sort of thing there. And if it's just personal, that's great. But, I've been talking a lot about this, like internet accountability lately, for all sorts of reasons. It's like, I don't know, like, if I like got some memo or read some article like early on in my career, but I was always like, hey, you guys know the internet's public, right? Like, people can like go back, that stuff's saved, that's there. And it's like, I feel like so many people forgot that stuff is there, and there's all these comments, and everyone's just like, it just goes into the ether and it doesn't matter. But, not so much with social media comments, but definitely with website comments. Like, you can go back, who knows what people commented on a WP Tavern article or whatever, like in the archives or whatever. And that stuff is searchable. And so that's the thing. It's like, that's all there, and that's even more accessible than Facebook and Facebook's comments. So we should be even more careful with our web comments, our business profiles. Like, I never in any way recommend my business clients use comments. They're too much to moderate. They're a liability. You piss people off by either moderating too much or moderating too little. And then you have the liability of making sure, another instance where you're trying to make sure your clients are feeling, nurtured and used, or properly, cared for. And
I think if you're going to put comments on your site, set an expiration date. Like, say, like, you know what, I'm allowing comments for the next year. After that, no more comments on that old post. I don't want to go back to what old Jason said, and now I have to like defend what Jason said in a state in which he was in back then. Now it's like,
Well, at the very least that. But I think
hold on, you can extend that. All commenting is closed on any post 3 months after it's published, and then all comments on that post are deleted 1 year after it's published.
See, now that's even better. Now you're Snapchat and web comments.
Oh my gosh, we need a checkbox, George. Turn a checkbox on in Jetpack, man. Make it happen.
Now I just have to start digging through archive.org to find all those nasty little comments that someone left and are now gone. And
right.
They're there. Don't worry. Oh, they're there. If we've learned anything this week, it's that it's there.
I wasn't going to make quite such a direct allusion, but sure, yes, that.
It's not just this week. It's all the weeks. It's all the time. It's a constant. We're just in the time where we're like, oh, that wasn't good, huh? That's like kind of, it's like it was fine before, no one cared, and now
it's Lunar New Year. Was it the year of the pig this year? No, it's the year of the milkshake duck. Okay.
What? The milkshake duck?
Man,
you're not familiar with the milkshake duck?
Oh, bring it! Bring the memes.
So
while we're doing that, Jonathan, you had something to say?
So many things.
An adage that I've personally adopted, and it's perhaps a little extreme, but when I write publicly and privately, like even in my own journals, I write as if if I'm writing about a person, as if they would read it someday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, so when I'm discussing things internally with team members, when we're dealing with issues, like I'm writing as if like, and it's not always pretty, but I take that mental check of like, what if the person I'm writing about were to read this right now? Am I still happy with what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And then in recent years, I've added
act as if it's like public on the internet.
Yeah. Well, in recent years, the other thing I've added is this idea of let me remember that there is an actual human on the other side of this.
Right.
Like, so right as if I was talking to the person in person, what would I say if I was face to face with them right now?
Or if their friend was standing next to them too,
That's where I see a ton of disconnect, is people like forget there's an actual human on the other side of this. This isn't just a box you can throw how you're feeling into. You can, and many of us do, but there's real people on the other side of this, and picture them, think of them as you're doing this.
Okay, sometimes they're also bots. Sometimes they're not real people. But if we're talking about, the WordPress community, hopefully for the most part they're real people, although maybe also bots. I don't really know. But I agree with you. I just wanted to
say, just to detail, the phrase milkshake duck comes from a tweet by Pixelated Boat on Twitter from 2016 in which he tweeted, quote, "The whole internet loves Milkshake Duck, a lovely duck that drinks milkshakes. 5 seconds later, we regret to inform you the duck is racist."
That's pretty much it. We regret to inform you we didn't actually vet the duck.
Sort of, yeah. Now let's just start not doing that to political candidates, and then we'll be good.
I think the point here is really the point here is not that, just like with the rest of the internet, it's not that one thing is bad or that comments are bad or that comments are good or that whatever. It's what are you using them for? What is your purpose? Are you a business who's using them to have discussions about important topics that contribute to your bottom line? Are you a person who wants to create these discussions in society and, have open up that cultural discussion? Yeah. Are you just wanting to connect personally with people and, strengthen your community and your friendships? Or what are you doing? And that shapes how you should be engaging. So we say there's engagement, but you don't engage the same way with everybody in the same thing. And I think that we oftentimes in the internet get very painted all with one brush,
Hey, are you quoting Hamlet at us now?
Quoting Hamlet?
When he says, "For there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so."
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Totally.
Wow, check you out.
Look at us today. We're so literary. You're just feeling very media-tastic, just in case you're not wondering.
Okay, sure.
But I would like to point out that in terms of technical stuff, using Facebook comments is super dated because no one necessarily wants to be logged into Facebook, and you shouldn't be forcing someone to use an avenue that they may or may not be using. If they're in Facebook, they should use Facebook comments. If they're not in Facebook, they probably don't want to be in Facebook. So don't force them to do that. That's my take.
But there is no internet. There's just the Facebook net.
There is no Facebook net.
When there was no internet, everyone just viewed it through AOL keywords. That
was a golden time. Hey, Brad G, 123, I know you're out there somewhere. Tweet at me. Just kidding.
All right, folks. I want to say thank you very much for hanging out with us today. If you want to subscribe to this, you can use is it keyword WPwatercooler on AOL, and you can figure out how to get to us here. I want to say thank you all for coming out and hanging out with us, watching us on all the different social media networks that we stream this stuff on. We really appreciate that. And if you have something that you want to say about this particular topic, there's a comment box somewhere. Leave a comment below. I'm sorry you have to use Facebook if you're on our website, but we also have YouTube, and you'll have to have YouTube in order to leave a comment over there too. So,
all right.
Talk to y'all later. You have a good one.
You can't comment on YouTube without YouTube. What?
I know, right? Bye.